The power of persistence. Robert Kiyosaki stood quietly by the window, gazing out at the city skyline. The sun was setting, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. The once bustling streets were now calming down, just as his life had finally begun to slow after decades of hard work. His mind wandered back to the early days, those tough, bitter years when it felt like everything was falling apart. But one thing kept him going: persistence. A word so simple, yet so powerful, it changed his life. "Don't ever give up on yourself," he muttered under his breath. You see, Robert wasn't always the financial expert, the author, or the millionaire people know today. There was a time when he had nothing, absolutely nothing. He had failed business ventures, piling debt, and the looming fear of disappointment. It felt like the universe was conspiring against him, making every step harder than the last. There were nights he sat on his apartment floor, wondering if he was chasing a dream that was never meant for him. But then he remembered his father's words. Not his biological father, but his rich dad. The poor work for money. The rich have money, work for them. It was a statement that burned in his soul like a torch in a dark cave. Every failure, every setback, only made that flame burn brighter. He knew deep down that he would not stay where he was. He would rise above the challenges. But how? How do you keep pushing forward when everything seems to be pulling you back? How do you keep believing in yourself when the world around you seems to have lost faith? Robert's journey wasn't one of instant success. No, it was one of long, painful, gut-wrenching effort. After serving in the Vietnam War as a helicopter gunship pilot, he thought that surviving the battlefield would make civilian life easier. But life had its own way of testing him. He started businesses that failed, one after another, and with each failure came judgment from those around him. "Maybe you're not cut out for business," people said. "Maybe it's time to get a real job," others sneered. But Robert had something inside him, something he had learned from his rich dad, something that could not be measured or counted. It was persistence. It was resilience. "You can fail many times," Robert would remind himself, "but you are not a failure until you quit." Those words echoed in his mind every single day, and despite the mounting pressures, he refused to quit. He refused to let go of his vision. One of the most pivotal moments came when he created his first business selling Velcro wallets. At first, the idea seemed brilliant. He and his business partners were sure it would take off, but after a promising start, the market dried up. The business fell apart. Robert lost everything he had invested and then some. The failure hit him hard. He was devastated. What more could he possibly take? But just as he began to doubt himself, something inside him clicked. "This isn't the end," Robert told himself. "This is just a lesson, a stepping stone to something greater." He wiped his tears and got back to work. He read more books, sought new mentors, and deepened his financial knowledge. With each lesson, his path grew clearer. Robert began to understand that money wasn't his problem. It was his lack of knowledge about how it worked. That realization changed everything. "Money is a tool," he whispered one day, feeling the power in the words. "And if you learn how to use it, you can shape your future." This insight became the foundation for his bestseller, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. He poured his heart and soul into it, sharing the lessons he'd learned from his biological father and his rich dad. His book wasn't just about making money, it was about changing people's perception of it. That's exactly what it did. The book became a global phenomenon, sold millions of copies, transformed countless lives, and established Robert Kiyosaki as a leader in financial education. Yet Robert would say, it wasn't the book that made him a success. It wasn't the seminars or the millions he earned. It was his persistence, his refusal to give up, even when the world told him to stop, is what changed his life. Standing by the window, watching twilight settle in, Robert smiled. He had learned a priceless lesson. Success isn't about never failing. It's about rising every time you fall. So, next time you're struggling, unsure, and thinking of quitting, remember these words. Don't ever quit on yourself.